Hey, this is Sean, and it is Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019, and this is an adventure in oil trading. And this is episode journal. I don't know, we're up there in the high 30s now, I think. So today, I forgot it was a holiday week, so I was expecting oil inventories at 8:30 my time, which never happened, which I just came to seem to keep blowing this around these holiday times. I didn't put on any trades or one time last time I had a bit of a mistake because it was at the wrong time and I was in a trade late and got stuck. But this time the only problem is that I kind of checked out of potential opportunities and wasn't paying attention as much as I should have, thinking that inventories were coming. But not a big deal. Um, this is not my P&L. This is Sim. After I was done for the day, I was trading on Sim, which made another almost 30 ticks, which I wish I would have stayed on live. But here is my live. My live results are right here, as you can see, can be verified. Ended up 45. So pretty happy with that, considering the last 2 days, how I performed, and just having my confidence really shaken and not really even knowing if I want to continue. And, you know, it's not so much that having 2 bad days is such a big deal for me. It happens to everybody. It happens to good traders and especially with bad traders. But for me, kind of reflecting back on it over the last couple of days, I think one of the biggest things for me is that I just was taken back to a painful, uncomfortable place of my previous episodes of trading, and going back and forth and having big drawdowns and losing so much money in the past, and just feeling like I'm doing it again. That's what's, that's that program, and that's that message in your head, in my head anyway, that starts to creep back in. Oh yes, here we go again. But this is different. This time it really is different. I feel like I have made a lot of progress, and I feel like my results since I've been live, other than these past 2 very bad days, speak to that. I'm trading better than I've ever traded before, more consistently, and more profitably than ever. Looking back at my results in the past, I don't know if I ever put together a full winning week, and if I did, it was marginal at best and barely profitable. So who knows what's going to happen. I have some pretty big damage to recover from, but that's in the past and it doesn't much matter, and I will trade tomorrow just like it's a new day, and with this having nothing to do with it. So I'm going to get into real quickly what my read was for the day. So coming into today, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, we were pushing up into this previous day's supply up here at 54, and likely after yesterday, an expectation to come back in and to test into these previous bar highs was my expectation. And with a little more detail than that, even more so, if we didn't push back up to test these highs, likely would be, and overnight we were well below this point of control, so likely would be to come back, and I said to even specifically test this naked point of control, and unbelievably, uncannily, we hit it to the tick. And this stuff just happens over and over again. It's nothing magical. So I'll read it though. And I really like having this pre-market read. It helps me clarify and keep my mind straight, especially when I'm in the heat of short time frame and order flow, and I'm looking at these short time frame charts. That if I look at this and see, is this read still consistent with what I'm seeing, is very helpful for me. Anyway, it was yesterday. I did this yesterday and the day before as well. But I feel like that also helped me and allowed me to see why was I trading so much opposite and opposed to exactly what my read was. So current price, and I've added this as well when I do this read in the morning. Current price 53.47 at 6:30. We're inside yesterday's stretched profile, above value area high of 53.28. likely upside is to 54 to test Monday's VPOC, below to yesterday's VPOC at 53, and again, if we make it below that, 52 at micro composite high volume node, and 117 naked point of control at 5185, and that's that 5185 number that I mentioned. And stretch numbers below would be to 5150, so if we really go outside of that, that'd be my expectation. We can see, actually I'll just go to the 15 because that's what I generally start with in the morning, but 6 o'clock we were getting up close to expectation would be to test this overnight high. That was the next likely, but pretty quickly after I was at the charts, we were already starting to move down pretty aggressively and got stuck back in this kind of this value, this balancy area. You can see this profile right here. The point of control was well within yesterday's value area. So at that point, it's hard to say. We may have it's just kind of in range of yesterday, choppy day. Don't know. So after kind of around the open though, we rejected this pivot area here and worked lower. So at that point, my expectation is to test this low and to test the overnight low. I did start to try to get a short on at 710, and let's just switch here back to my shorter time frame. This is a 3-minute chart, but 710 was about after it looked like we were failing this previous balance in this consolidation lower, so my expectation would be to test this lower side, and I took that based on this push down, and I just managed it pretty tightly and didn't get moving. And then at this point, about 718, it looks like we are failing again this lower side, and expectation would be to come up here and test higher, which we did just very briefly before we start kind of some larger imbalance moves nearly at 8 o'clock. 803 tried to get long, and 803, that's right here at the lows here. For a little better clarity even, we'll check this 1-minute chart. So being very, very close to nailing the low of this swing here. 803, I think we got one more small push down before we rallied. 803 was about right here, and I got taken out on a -7 on this one more push right here. So close, and then I gave up on that and immediately went short. And this is when I know that I kind of recognize that I am a little bit outside of my plan, and I'm thinking that I'm trying to that FOMO is kicking in, that fear of missing out, and that I'm expecting another leg down, which is possible, but not without a setup, not without really having something valid or order flow telling me. And at this point, with failing this low side and not getting much going, I'd at least want to see, before getting back on this short, to see some kind of push up into this volume up here higher to get a short on. So it basically just came down to just not wanting to miss out on the move. So this number 2 trade was definitely valid. This number 3, what I took and I've talked about this in the past as well. When I take these full 10-tick losses, I just am kind of panicking, and I have that by default a bracket order to take me out of a trade, and it wasn't valid, and sometimes you can be so close, and I think my entry was 68, so I was 4 ticks from calling the low of this swing, and fortunately I was able to regain my composure, get right back on it after we failed this, after I got taken out of that, and I decided to hop back on this trade long, and that's about at 806, so can't really see it on this bar, but that's right after this final failure, and before breaking higher, before it breaks these, because I want to be in this trade before it breaks the tops here, and took that up. Expectation was to come right back up into here and test these lows of this this previous bar lows and this previous consolidation area that we broke down from, and that's exactly what we did. So very nice 30 tick win there. Next trade was at 842. I missed this one, which was very nice, this failure here to come back down. And where did it come? Exactly to this, where this imbalance demand zone came from. I missed that though. And then I did get back on it, I think, in here. And this is just a smaller failure again. Definitely much more aggressive. If I took this one, I really should have taken this one. This one has much more context for being that we're holding this, the bottom side of this consolidation. It supports the trade much better than this. But, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a failure above and then a secondary to support the short on that. But I did take that, and then on this last push up here I think at about 846. Yeah, I was in there about 3.5 minutes, and that's when this took me out. I managed it a little pretty tight, and then just a minute or so later went all the way down. My expectation would have been at least to test these lows, and didn't quite get there, but would have been a nice trade. Good for some. Hopefully, I probably would have locked in something on that trade. Now this one, the next one, my 32 tick win. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of an issue on my dome. I had a target. I have a 20 tick target set. I was able to drag that down, and when price just kind of exploded, 925. I'll show you exactly where this happened, but I couldn't get my price dragged down fast enough. And who knows, it might have been a good thing or a bad thing, or I would have held on to it. But I was trying to get that. I'm trying to get my target dragged down on my dome way out of the way so that the trade has room, and I can base my decisions on order flow when I see buyers start stepping in, and I can manage the trade a little bit more proactively on the dome rather than a set target. And this is what really I was looking at. And first of all, I saw this very large imbalance move up here, and all of this absorption coming in here. I didn't have a trade here really. I wanted to see at least this volume tested again, and it didn't do that before breaking down. But I did get in this trade based on kind of this absorption and this failure of price higher here. At this point, to me, this zone is being tested from below and failing on very large volume as well. So now we're back down into this whole large consolidation area. And at this point, I want to take this trade to see if we can break lower. And I think my entry was 92 and didn't have a whole lot. It was definitely more on the aggressive side, but based on all of this volume here, I took this trade right here at around 92 at this bottom of this zone for the break, and with a stop to be kind of up here in this 99 area. And it broke 923.25. I mean, it broke just minutes after I entered, almost as I just saw that buyers seemed very weak. It was also a call and a trade somewhat based on what I was watching on Bookmap as well as on the dome, just watching order flow. And it just seemed like things were shifting, and it just made sense with this very large accumulation up here above that something was about to happen. And it did. So 58, I got taken out of this trade on a fixed target, which is a little bit unfortunate because once price moves, the first explosive move goes all the way down to 38. So 20 ticks at least. I'm not saying that I would have taken it off at the absolute low, but next expectation is that price will come back up the first time back up into this 64 area. I don't know. I wouldn't have held it through that anyway. I'm not going to take a 30 almost a 30 tick drawdown. So when I saw some weakness on the dome, I probably would have. So it may not have been much better than my 58 exit, but very nice trade, And that's the kind of moves that I'm looking for. And I think, I mentioned this failure here. This is the kind of opportunity that I was talking about. Excuse me. missing because I was expecting oil inventories in 10-15 minutes, so I stayed out of this trade. I mean, 8:15, 8:16 is still enough time, but I passed on it. But 92 was my entry, and we can see that price sold off nearly over 100 ticks, 105 ticks from my entry. So can't get it all, but can't complain about 32 either. And just crazy that 86 price came to the tick to this naked volume point of control from last Thursday, the 17th. So that's it. That's about all I want to get into. A little more trade analysis, but the emotional stuff is the most important thing that I'm really trying to embrace. And it's nice to come back and be resilient, and I'm proud to say that I came back after 2 just very emotionally difficult days, feeling like everything that I'd been working for was kind of lost in a waste, and didn't have any idea what I was doing. To rally back today feels pretty good. So I don't like how I managed those couple of losses. The one, especially the FOMO trade, trying to short the low of that swing was not good. It wasn't well thought out, and it wasn't planned out. So I'm trying, slowly but surely, I'm trying to minimize those. And hindsight is 20/20, but also I can recognize, and I know when these are kind of FOMO trades and outside my plan, and I don't really have a good trade that fits those parameters without any order flow or without any volume supporting that trade above. It just would I be saying something else if it just took off and sold off there? Maybe I would, but it wasn't looking good. not anything looked pretty good. Maybe if we had came back up and tested into this volume and shown that buyers were very weak, but I was just trying to hop on a train that wasn't ready to leave yet. So, but let's call it good there. I realized as well that I think I have a pretty good understanding of what I'm trading and how I trade and how my good setups are put together. I'm trying to not get too involved with thinking that I can continue to study and look at more setups. I mean, more screen time, watching order flow is valuable to some level, but it's completely worthless if I can't get my mind and my mental game cleaned up to where I'm not making these big errors. So that's the takeaway. Of course, the edge can always be sharpened and it can always be improved. But if the giant elephant in the room is saying, well, you're just not following rules and taking trades that are way outside of your edge, then no amount of studying or setups or adding anything is going to help me. So, well, thank you, and tomorrow's another day. Back to fight.